Auburn's putting itself in a prime position to have the best portal class in the country.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's Ben Taylor of Auburn Opelika this morning, hanging out with us on today's bonus episode of Locked On Auburn. Ben, when you look at these portal rankings, and we'll talk about, the impact that these individual guys can have in a second, but when you look at these portal rankings, On3 currently has Auburn as the number 3 portal class in this cycle, with 6 guys coming in, 12 guys going out, only behind Ole Miss and Texas Tech, which I don't fully understand these rankings. Just to be totally honest with you, there's a lot of inconsistencies with this. But all in all, I think with what could be coming for Auburn, specifically, the buzz around Eric Singleton, the very talented Georgia Tech wide receiver, who seems to be kind of really be considering the Auburn Tigers. I think when it's all said and done, Auburn will have the best portal class in the country.
Well, they had the best, at least for 48 hours. I told you that when I looked at it, and then they went from 1 to 3, which kind of caught me off guard because we actually added, if I'm not mistaken, a tackle at that point after we were number 1, and he's a good tackle. I mean, yes. It's not like they added some guy that had not played in 3 years and then all of a sudden just was looking for some playing time to go somewhere. So you and I were discussing, I don't know if it's an algorithm. I don't know if this is just a subjective poll that On3 puts out amongst their members.
Yeah, they don't really say.
Yeah, like they say, hey, vote these guys in. Ole Miss thing I kind of get. I don't get the Texas Tech thing. So Auburn, I say that to say this, Zach. I think that Auburn fans need to be happy because if they end up with a top 5 portal class, then you have some talent coming in that will be used and that will be on the field next year.
Yeah, and this number's wrong. I read, with 6 transfers, and Auburn actually has 8. So maybe this will move them back up once they update it. But, I mean, with the recent additions obviously Jackson Arnold is the headliner. The quarterback's always going to be. And I think this was posted before Ashton Daniels officially signed and all that too. And so we've seen Ole Miss get all the praise in the transfer portal when they add multiple quarterbacks. We'll see if Auburn gets that same love moving forward. But Raion Strader, who I think is a pretty decent corner from Miami of Ohio, several pass breakups a year ago. And then the newest addition is Mason Murphy, who is going to compete for that starting right tackle spot. I think it's going to be a battle between him and Tyler Johnson. I mean, you can look at numbers and how guys are ranked, but all of these guys make sense for one reason or another. You can see what the coaching staff is thinking with adding all of these guys, which I think is kind of an underrated part in all of this.
How much tape do these coaches watch? Well, I shouldn't say coaches.
Will Redmond is watching tape. I mean, he's been watching these guys for months, I'm sure, just like making all these lists of hypothetical names. If certain guys were to enter the portal, these are the guys that we want to pursue. Will Redmond has been all over this. And we saw him reconstruct LSU's roster that helped LSU win an SEC West championship the first year Brian Kelly was there. He brought in Jaden Daniels, who obviously won the Heisman. He's been electric as a rookie. Yeah, he's been electric as a rookie in the NFL. And so far, it's either him or Bo Nix, I would say. Yeah. But so far, I can see what he's doing here. And some of these guys, I don't think are being brought in to start right away. I don't think Darrell Robinson is being brought in to be RB1 right out of the gate. I don't think Tay Seymour, the safety from Georgia Tech, I don't think he's being brought in to, unseat Sylvester Smith or Caleb Harris. Ashton Daniels, I think we all agree on what his role is going to be, is kind of being a backup guy who can help this team get better. Than Raion Strader, I think, is fascinating because he may believe he can compete, and there's a chance that he can compete for reps with Jay Crawford and Champ Anthony and Kayan Lee. Worst case is he's the 4th corner on this roster, and you take that in a heartbeat. He's still going to get plenty of playing time.
No, and you never know the situation they were in. They may have just been that type player that says, I just want a chance to compete. And if I can have a chance to compete, then I will accept that backup role. But I mean, where I am now, I mean, there's not an opportunity for me, or they've got somebody else, or they've talked to me, or whatever. Because you see the quarterback position. I mean, we don't know. I mean, we're basing what they brought in or what Auburn has brought in thus far as we've kind of picked out a pecking order, but we never know. I mean, he doesn't come in until May. The Stanford quarterback doesn't. After he graduates, he's going to wait and get his degree. So you got two guys that are going to be the only ones right now in spring ball, and as far as 8A is concerned, and one's going to be a true freshman and one's going to be a transfer. So at least they're going to get the reps. They're not going to be stuck there having to go with 3s and 4s because there's not but 2 of them. So they're going to have to either that or Jackson's going to have to take some snaps at quarterback if they don't get anybody else in between now and then. So it'll be interesting to see. I like being able to fill them up. I say that about the watching film and Will Redmond doing his job because there was some online chatter about the offensive lineman from USC that we grabbed that's going to be headed this direction. And there were some USC fans that basically were like, so glad he's gone. He couldn't block.
Mason Murphy. Murphy.
And I wonder when they look at film and they see something that they go, you know what, we can fix that. Like that's something that, whether it's something fundamentally they can fix or they see the potential there. But there were Auburn fans that jumped in with the USC fans and they're like, well, great. This is a wasted, pickup. And I'm like, no, the coaches saw something or they wouldn't have brought a guy in from the friggin' West Coast to come play in Auburn, Alabama. They saw something on film.
Yeah, and we've seen fresh starts help folks in the past as well. And also, like, what's to say both he and Tyler Johnson have a decent offseason, and they say we want both these guys on the field, and maybe you scoot Mason in the guard to compete with Jeremiah Wright. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, worst case is you get a guy who could be a backup left tackle, or right guard, all with one roster spot. Like, I mean, that's what we're talking about, like worst case scenario here. So you still take it. Take it. But yeah, as soon as I saw that we were gonna get Mason Murphy, I had a brief conversation with Locked On USC host Mark Colkin, and hopefully I'll get him on later this week. But he's like, his feet are a little slow. Like if I would want him to play more guard than tackle, he was kind of the weak point of the offensive line at times this season, and so we'll see. And how much of that is scheme? How much of that is how he was used at USC? I don't know. The other side of this is you can't really control what the market is going to give. This was a big talking point when we were discussing quarterbacks and who Auburn should go out and get in the portal via, or go out, which quarterback should they get via the portal? Is like, okay, well, Jackson Arnold or Malik Murphy. And it's like, okay, well, both these guys have boxes that are unchecked that we all kind of wanted, proven winner at their previous stop or whatever that might be. Like, well, like then who you getting? Yeah. And who you getting? And it's like, well, these guys have the most boxes checked, not everything. And so what does Auburn do? They go out and get the number 1 ranked offensive tackle in the portal. And then in Xavier Chaplin. And then they're like, well, let's get the number 2 ranked offensive tackle in the portal. I don't know. And I'm sure the coaches don't care about those rankings, but people who are unbiased in this supposedly are saying that he's the second best option out there. So like, okay, why not?
Well, and what have we said? Get an offensive line, get some protection. We don't really know what our quarterback can do when they finally stay on their feet and are not running for their life. So, make some reads, make some progressions, and see where they go from there. So, it's interesting. This whole scenario. The one thing you don't want to do, and I think we kind of got stuck doing that a little last year, because I told you I think that Freeze and staff have been a little more aggressive in the portal this time around than they were last year. You don't want to be stuck shopping at the blue light special at Kmart at the end of the portal dates, or waiting till that second portal comes around going, and that's a big throwback, right? Blue light special. And so you don't want to be stuck doing that where you've got some needs you got to have, but everything's been picked over. So you just kind of got to grab what's left, and you put yourself in that situation. And then you're talking about another terrible year where you got a bunch of guys going out because you had to pick up trash in the portal to start with.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So, which of these guys could make the largest impact, and who else could be added to this class to make it number one? I think the main name is clear there. More on that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at the College Football Playoff. It's that time of year. The College Football Playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff Kickoff Show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Ben Taylor, can you imagine wagering anywhere other than with our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook?
No, I have a FanDuel account.
Yep. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Tonight's game, Georgia State at Auburn. Auburn is a 39.5-point favorite.
I will say this. I got a neutral buddy that bets FanDuel. He lives up in Memphis, so he's not like an Auburn or an Alabama fan. He is all over Auburn and the over on every game this year, and he is cleaning up. So 39 is quite a bit. I'm just saying.
40 points?
Yeah,
Auburn going to win by 40?
Yeah, 40 is quite a bit. I wondered if he takes them tonight, but I'm just saying that the advice from the guy that is not a professional says hit the over every time with Auburn this year.
Yeah, the over under 156.5. So get in on the action over at FanDuel. Hey, you can win $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet hits. All that is at FanDuel.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first or second listen every single day. Ben Taylor of Auburn Opelika this morning. The buzz around Eric Singleton, the top receiver, the top player in the transfer portal. They got his buddy Tay Seymour via the portal, the Georgia Tech safety. They got him via the portal yesterday, and everybody's saying that that's relevant, that matters, that I don't know if they're necessarily a package deal, but it does seem like Eric Singleton's decision was somewhat tied to the addition of Tay Seymour. So we'll see what that looks like. But I'm hearing more and more positive buzz for Auburn when it comes to adding Eric Singleton.
I don't want to get ahead of myself for it being a package deal because they didn't both sign at the same time. That's a package deal, in my opinion. Singleton is still waiting. I will be honest with you. I got a little giddy because I told you I don't, unlike Charlie 5, I do follow recruiting somewhat where I will scroll through and I'll take a look at people. So when I saw the S on the last name as signing the dotted line, I was like, oh, we got him. And then I clicked on it. I was like, oh, that's not him. And so I did wonder, but I think there's a good shot. Is this what takes the place of KLS? Is this the type receiver we would be getting in Eric Singleton if he jumps from Georgia Tech to Auburn?
Yeah. I think that level of impact for sure. I mean, we all assume that some of these now sophomore wide receivers are going to take that natural step forward. Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, Bryce Kane. But sure. Yeah, I think so. Just that veteran in the room that feels like he's a year away from going into the NFL. I think that's what you're looking to add here. 100%. And you know that he can do it against elite competition because he was a problem for Georgia in that crazy game where they finished their regular season against each other. So to me, I think he checks all the boxes. There were reports on, him demanding a ton of money in NIL, which isn't a shocker. He's the number one player in the portal right now, at least among wide receivers. Like that's what this is. That's what this is right now. So I don't know why you would expect otherwise.
The reason, because there have been people, some of the chatter, would it scare off some of our young receivers? No, because I think Thompson still has a long way to go just because Coleman towards the end of the year started really stepping up. So you're like, okay, the future is bright with Cam Coleman. Like he's going to be a go-to. He's going to be your down the field threat. And then when you talk about Simmons, he's a guy that Zach, yes, he's a receiver, but he's a guy I just want to get into space. I just want the ball in his hands. He doesn't have to be a deep threat. He doesn't have to be a go-to on 3rd and long or go-to on 4th down, but he is a guy that can He's not afraid of anything. So he's a great guy to drag over the middle on a fourth down that's going to probably hold onto the ball and then make something happen. So I think this type guy that, Singleton, like you said, if he's a problem versus, in my opinion, a very good Georgia defense, he can be a problem against every defense if he gets in the right system, especially in a quick moving Auburn system as far as offensive. If we finally get to see that we've been promised over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. Which of all the portal additions so far are you most excited about?
I think the low-hanging fruit that you would like to say is the quarterback position, just because, contrary to what people say, I don't believe this is Peyton Thorne 2.0. However, I'm really excited about the Virginia
Such
Tech
a bad comparison.
It is. I hate it when they do it because it's not anywhere close. It really isn't. And
it's like when some people call it Peyton Thorne like Jeremy Johnson 2.0, and I'm like, nope, not the same scenario. Not the same scenario at all. Yeah, I mean, this is a guy like Peyton Thorne was a 3-star or whatever coming out of school. And I don't think anybody really expected him to light the world up on fire. I thought he'd be better than he was, but Jackson Arnold is a dude who was a 5-star coming out. I mean, the NFL's aware of who this guy is. And
he was throwing to his 5th best receiver, at some point during the game. And
Peyton at Michigan State was throwing to guys that are in the NFL.
Right. Now. And Jackson Arnold, his last 6 games, I saw the stat the other day, 0 turnovers. So, you got to like that. I mean, all these Auburn fans talking about Peyton.
0 interceptions.
0 interceptions. I'm sorry. Yes, 0 interceptions. And so that's the low-hanging fruit to grab and say I like that. But I got to be honest, I'm big, I told you, on protection. I like this Virginia Tech offensive lineman that's going to be coming in. And I think it's well needed. I think if he stays healthy, I think that's going to make a huge difference, not just protection-wise, but I think even in our run game, losing Jarquez now, we're going to need to be able to open up a few holes and get some guys in space. And I think that's a big addition to the Auburn Tiger team.
Yeah, agreed. Xavier Chaplin is my most impactful addition
there you go.
So far. Xavier Chaplin, 100%. Let us know in the comments down below who you like the most. Ben Taylor,
they're all going to say Eric Singleton. We want it. As soon as we get him, he'll be our favorite guy.
No, they're going to say Hudson Cock because he's the best.
Yes,
he's the best. The former Oklahoma State punter.
Yes, and I'm glad he finally got Waffle House.
Did you see that? No wonder he committed on the spot.
Also, I'm shocked that there's not a Waffle House in a college town.
In Stillwater? What do they do? Can we open one there? Like, goodness gracious.
And when he said, it's kind of a small town, I'm like, every small town has a Waffle House. It's a college town. What are we doing?
Yeah, I feel like the small towns are the ones that have like 2 or 3 Waffle Houses.
Exactly. That's like the place to go eat on a Friday night. So that baffled me when he said that. So good for him. I'm glad he can have as much as he wants here. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
That's like, what year was it? We got a guy because he said, I came here because I had a Chick-fil-A on campus.
I remember that.
I think it was Nosa Igwe that said that. I think he was the one that said that.
I don't remember. I remember that being said, though. That's funny.
That's fantastic.
That's funny. Ben, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Monday through Friday, you can check me out 6A to 9A. We do sports every morning after 7. We've got Top Button Tuesday, Double D Wednesday. We're Daryl Dapprich. We got Locked On Wednesday, Double D Monday, that is. And then The Drive Thursday. And then What's Goings On Friday with voice of the Auburn High Tigers, Jacob Goins, that joins me to talk about that sort of stuff as well. So
also the host of Locked On Hoosiers.
He is, exactly. And got a fairly decent team, it sounds like, that he's able to talk about right now.
Yeah, so good for him. Good for him.
So check it out, aunetwork.com. Click on the WANI logo.
Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.